Okay, so in the previous part we have discussed osmosis, and in this slide we have in the last slide we have already discussed that when the sugar is dissolved in a water, this sugar molecule which may forms a weak hydrogen bond with the water molecule, and this is the sugar molecule which is bound with the water molecule and forms a weak hydrogen bond, where there are another water molecules which are not bound with the sugar molecules. These are the water molecules which are not bound with the sugar molecules. They are called unbound molecule, and they easily pass through the cytoplasmic membrane as well as through the pores. They can easily pass, whereas the sugar bound molecules cannot pass through the so the unbound molecules can easily pass through the cytoplasmic membrane. And in the next slide we can see that when the sodium chloride molecule is dissolved in water, this sodium chloride, which is NaCl, which can split into Na plus and Cl minus, and this Na plus, which may possess a positive charge which may attract the partial negative charge of the oxygen, whereas Cl minus ions which may attract the partial positive charge, because water molecule consists of positive and negative charge. Sodium attracts with the negative charge, partial negative charge of the oxygen. Chlorine attaches with the partial, it is negatively charged, so it may attract the positive charge of the hydrogen. So these molecules are not able to move through the cytoplasmic membrane as well as through the pores. But unbound water molecules are very small, so they can easily pass through the pore of the cytoplasmic membrane. Next is the cell can find itself in one of the three environments. So what are the three types of environment in which cell can be found? In the isotonic environment, hypertonic environment, or hypotonic environment. So we have discussed these points in the spheroplast and protoplast. In the what happens when the cell is placed in isotonic, hypertonic as well as hypotonic. Again I am repeating. In an isotonic environment, what happens? Both the water and the solute concentration are same inside and outside the cell, and the water goes into and out of the cells at equal rate. The amount of water which may enter is equal to amount of water which goes out. So there is an equal rate in the isotonic environment. These are the example for the isotonic cell in an isotonic environment. So the solute concentration inside and outside is same, so it can easily move across the cytoplasmic membrane because there are equal amount of solute inside and equal amount of free water outside. What happens if the environment is hypertonic, which means the water concentration is greater inside the cell, while the solute concentration is higher outside the cell? So what happens? The water goes out of the cell because inside the water concentration is high. So there is a tendency to move the water molecules from the higher concentration to the outside. This is the condition in the hypertonic environment. The water molecules are more in the inside, whereas solute molecules are higher in the outside. So there is a tendency to move outside. If the environment, what happens if an environment is hypotonic? The water concentration is greater outside and the solute concentration is higher inside. So there is a tendency for the movement of the water molecules into the cell. This is the condition. That is, water molecules are more in the outside compared to the solute concentration inside. the environment surrounding the cell is hypotonic, less solute, therefore more free water. The cell cytoplasm is hypertonic, which means more solute, therefore less free water. So there is a chance of water flows into the cell. During osmosis, the water flows from greater water concentration to the lesser water concentration, or in other words, it towards the side with more solute. So that's all about osmosis. Next is what another different type of movement of the molecules across the cytoplasmic membrane. Second one is facilitated diffusion. In the case of this facilitated diffusion, it is the transport of substance across a plasma membrane by transport proteins. Transport proteins are taking part in the transport of substance, such as, what are the different types of transport proteins? Uniporters and channel proteins along a concentration gradient from the area of higher concentration to the area of lower concentration. So we can discuss more. Facilitated diffusion, and is also powered by potential energy of a concentration gradient, and it also doesn't require the expenditure of metabolic energy. First one among the facilitated diffusion is uniporter. Uniporters are transport proteins that transport a substance from one side of the membrane to the other. For example, potassium ions can enter the bacteria through uniporters. So the potassium ion gain entry into the bacteria with the help of the transport proteins called uniporters. These are called uniporter transport system, in which these potassium ions enter through this uniporter system. Next is channel proteins. These are the proteins which transport water or certain ions down either a concentration gradient, in the case of the water, or an electric potential gradient in the case of certain ions, from an area of higher concentration to the lower concentration. So certain ions down either a concentration gradient in the case of water, or an electric potential gradient in the case of certain ions can be transported. While the water molecules can directly cross the membrane by passive diffusion as mentioned above, channel proteins called aquaporins can enhance their transport. So here the channel proteins we have discussing is about aquaproteins. Okay. Next is about active transport. Active transport, it is the process whereby cell uses both transport proteins and metabolic energy. Up to this portion we have discussed about those movements without the expenditure of metabolic energy. But in active transport, it requires the expenditure of metabolic energy to transport substance across the membrane against the concentration gradient. In this way, active transport allows the cells to accumulate needed substances even when the concentration is lower inside. So the active transport allows the cells to accumulate needed substance even the concentration is lower outside. It is because here it is taking part is transport taking place is through the expenditure of metabolic energy. So it can be easily transport the solute even though it is lower in concentration outside. This can be gain entry into the bacterial cell. Active transport enables the bacteria to successfully compete with other organisms for limited nutrients in their natural habitat, and also it enables the pathogen to compete with the body's own cells and normal flora, bacteria, for the same nutrients. So for the competence of the same nutrients between the pathogens as well as the normal flora in a body, this active transport helps the pathogen to compete with the same nutrients. The energy for this transport is provided by a protein motive force, the hydrolysis of ATP. The protein motive force is by the ATP hydrolysis or by the breaking down of some other high energy compounds such as phosphoenol pyruvate. I think you are familiar with the term phosphoenol pyruvate. Okay, that we will study later in the microbial metabolism. Proton motive force is an energy gradient which resulting from hydrogen ions or protons which are moving across the membrane from the greater to lesser hydrogen ion concentration. And ATP is the form of energies the cells most commonly use to do cellular work. So the cells most commonly use ATP for performing their cellular work, and here using the ATP, the energy can be provided by the proton motive force, that is through the hydrolysis of ATP. Phosphoenol pyruvate, it is one of the intermediate high energy phosphate compound, and it is produced at the end of the glycolysis that we will study later in the microbial metabolism. Specific transport proteins or carrier proteins are required in order to transport majority of the molecules a cell requires across its cytoplasmic membrane. There are specific proteins required. This is because the concentration of nutrients in most natural environment is typically low. So there will be a competition between the organisms for the natural for the nutrients in the natural environment. So obviously the cells use or bacteria uses this type of transport. And these transport proteins allow the cells to accumulate nutrients from even a sparse environment. And here the transport proteins which are involved in active transport include antiporters, symporters, the proteins of the ATP binding cassette system, that is called ABC system, and the proteins involved in group translocation. These are the transport proteins involved in the active transport. First we can discuss about antiporter system. In the antiporters are the transport proteins that transport one substance across a membrane in one direction, while simultaneously transporting a second substance across the membrane in the opposite direction. When the one substance is entering, obviously, and simultaneously second substance across the membrane moves in the opposite direction. This is called antiporter system. And in antiporters in bacteria, they generally uses which type of energy? Potential energy of electrochemical gradient from the protons, that is the proton motive force, to co-transport ions, glucose and amino acids against their concentration gradient. Sodium ions and protons, for example, are co-transported across the bacterial membranes by antiporters. So using this antiporter mechanism, both the sodium ions as well as this protons, that is H plus ions, are co-transported within the bacterial membrane. So in this antiporter system, the transport of this are the type of transport proteins in which the substances can be transported across the membrane in one direction, and also at the same time the second substance is transported across the membrane in the opposite direction. This is about antiporter system. Later we can discuss in the next video.